This is the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Essex Junction DRB. Chris, are you answering questions for staff at the moment, or do we have any amendments or additions to the agenda?
We do not, but we should go through the script.
All right, we've only got two people here, and they're both witnesses for the first item, so.
It is possible some people may be watching from afar. The meeting of the Essex Junction Development Review Board has come to order. The meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically at 2 Lincoln Street, where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. One member of this public body or other staff is present at 2 Lincoln Street to ensure the public can participate if desired. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that while the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing cyuen@essexjunction.org. And in the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to July 18th at 6:30 at 2 Lincoln Street, Essex Junction. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance of all members of the board participating in the meeting and those members attending remotely, and have those members attending remotely identify themselves to ensure that they can hear and be heard throughout the meeting.
I don't remember doing attendance. Do we just call ourselves out?
Yes.
John Alden, Chair. Rob
Mount.
Good.
Yes, good.
Christian,
Thank you. Chris.
can you just say something to see if we can hear you? It seems like we cannot hear you.
We'll have
One
to,
moment, we are working on this.
you'll have to use your hand raising feature and then type something in chat if you want until we get it sorted out. All right, item 2 is public to be heard. I don't see any members of the public here for something other than the article under consideration, but if anybody has something that's not on the agenda, this is your chance. No? Okay. Item 3 is minutes of our regular meeting, April 18th. I hope everybody read them. I'll take a motion to approve as written.
I'll move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Any questions or comments, and this is, use your chat thing if you need to. I did have one question about halfway down the second page. There's a reference in the paragraph above the bold section to Mr. Rabideau, who's the architect for the other project. So I think that reference is really to Mr. Goldsman, who is the architect for the 8 Railroad Street project.
Sorry, which
Does that make sense to anyone?
which page are you talking about?
Page 2. We're talking about the gambrel roof being widened, if feasible, colors on the building. Mr. Fill in the blank said that more colors could be added to the building, right? So I think that's referring to the architect of the 8 Railroad project, which is Dan Goldsman.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we should change Mr. Rabideau to Mr. Goldsman.
Great.
No other comments? Anybody else with a comment on the minutes? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, public hearing. Final site plan to construct a 4-story residential building with 39 units and parking at 227 to 229 Pearl Street in the MFMU1 district by Handy Hotels and Rentals owner. I see the applicants are here. I need to swear you in. So raise your right hand, repeat after me if you're planning on saying anything. Thank you. I hereby, you're gonna just say I do at the end. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you. All right, why don't we have a little quick show and tell? I think we've seen this before. There was a substantial amount of paperwork back and forth between the applicant and staff. We've read most of it. I think the staff comments are good, but they all seem engineering wise and kind of overly related to policy and procedure and didn't really have a lot to do with the waivers and the other things. So we have a few items to add to the conditions specifically to address the waiver requests. And I don't know if there's anywhere, but we'll find out. So, yeah, are you ready to?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Yeah, so we are back here again. You might recall this project originally by a different owner, the Sunderland Apartments. Since then, the property has changed hands, and so has the project. The project was reconfigured to kind of flip-flop the parcel and to be closer to the other building, which is also owned by a similar entity. The nuts and bolts of the actual engineering have not really changed because the property is kind of small, so it still has the same amount of impervious, still has the same, a lot of it is the same. We did add 4 more units to get the total count of units, I believe, up to, I think it's 40.
Can I interrupt real quick? Just
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, we're getting the engineer trying to make sure that we can hear her on the Zoom. So she can talk, but she can talk real quick, that we will maybe solve that problem.
All right, Kristen, it appears that your screen says you're muted, but well, let's try whether you can say something. There you go, try that. Can you say something?
Still muted.
Speak, Kristen.
She's still muted.
I think you're still muted according to the icon.
Still can't hear her.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you can.
Nice, all right, thanks. Thanks, Scott. Are we all set then? We're ready to go? All right.
Zoom. Yeah, thank you guys.
Now that we can hear you, Kristen, is there anything you want to say right now, or can we go? Let's just go
No,
through
you can
the.
go ahead. I had a couple of comments about the neighbor, but well, I don't know if you're there yet.
We're not quite there yet. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Kristen.
Yep, so from that project, we increased it by 5 more units, so from 34 to 39. But you all did hear about that when we came in for the sketch plan passed to make this revision. So not much has changed besides sort of finalizing the plans, getting an updated landscaping plan, and updates to the architectural plans, which is probably the biggest or the most comments we heard from the board last time we were here. So that is, I guess, kind of my spiel, and I guess I'd be happy to answer questions. A lot of the comments were technical from Hamlin, and we sort of worked through those in the past couple of weeks.
All right. Staff, do you have anything you want to add to the clarifications at this point?
So I think some of the biggest changes that have happened to this project since the conceptual design were some tweaks to the architectural design based on the DRB's feedback. The colors are now specified. I can actually throw these on the screen right now. And materials as well, those have now been specified. Let's see if we can get to here we go. One change here is that there's now an awning above the entrance. That was in direct response to the DRB's request, and there's 2 material types on the side and different colors in response to the DRB's comments that the side looked flat, and this kind of makes it pop a little bit. I think for the most part, the other issues we've highlighted in the staff reports are technical. One thing that the tree advisory committee, which meets monthly and just got comments to me, had was that they thought the landscaping plan was generally good, but that in order to preserve the mature trees as proposed, it's important to follow the requirements of the Land Development Code for tree protection, and to involve an arborist if necessary. Yeah, I mean, my other comments are highlighted in bold in the reports, but they are mostly technical.
Now, I guess related to the trees question, we did receive a email from one of the abutting neighbors with a request that a tree that sits on the property line be maintained. Do you know whether that's possible?
So that's the 60-inch oak that you have.
Yep,
It's shown to stay. Right?
We are showing it staying, and we're showing a gap in the fence right in there. This building orientation, compared to what we had originally, which had the building on the other side, I think this building orientation gives that possibility of that tree maintaining its pretty good health a lot better opportunity than having the building on that side. So it won't be as, I think it was like 15 feet away from the building, and that's a pretty big tree, so we would have had to do some trimming, which this one, I still think we'll probably do some trimming to get those parking spaces in, but I think the majority of the crown can stay intact.
And when you put the parking surface in and you dig for the sub base and so forth, are there some roots that you got to worry about? Do you think, are they pretty close to the top? Are they
I would
up high, or do we know?
I would suspect that we will run into some roots, just because the size of the crown normally is the same as the roots underneath it. We'll, I guess, do our best to avoid disturbing as much as we can, but we do have to put some sub base in there and get the parking in.
We just had a similar situation on a project, and there was a lot of back and forth with arborists and tree specialists, and turned out there were some things that could be done at the root level, like sort of loosening things up and injecting some other types of soil materials. And it may come out if we get the arborist, but I guess I would just tend to fall back on the LDC language that talks about tree protection and engaging an arborist. It could be straightforward. But yeah, I agree that moving the building is the biggest single thing that could have been done to help the chances of that tree surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it's far enough away from everything, and there's a little bit of the canopy that looks like it's got pavement going underneath it, but
because we also elevated the building
Yeah.
to keep it flat in that area around the tree, the final elevation of that parking lot is also sits a little bit higher than existing grade, so the sub base won't have to go quite as deep.
yeah, I guess don't just take the bulldozer in there and scour everything out. You're probably going to want to just confirm with the arborist what tree protection measures are appropriate for that situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
About, the neighbor's email? I was, regarding her, I think she wants a fence from the tree to the front of the garage. I was just kind of curious, like, I think there is a fence there already,
There's a fence on the site plan, where she, so I want to say that my understanding of the proposed, landscaping and fencing not only saves protects the tree, leaves the tree, but it also runs a fence all the way down the property line. So I want to say that her concerns are addressed by the project details. Unless anybody has something else, I think that's going to work. And that I did notice that.
The project is gonna have a fence along the line of the parking lot, correct?
Yeah.
It'll be along the property line, not along
Yeah.
the parking lot, but yes.
So it's a 6-foot high fence until you get out towards the street where it,
Drop.
by code, has to drop down to 29 inches or something.
That's correct.
Yeah. So we're giving, the project is providing as large a fence as is allowable under the code.
Okay. Great.
Anything else, Kristen?
No, that was my question.
Robert?
No questions or comments so far.
Bill? Nope. All right, so I'm gonna go through the staff report, and then I don't know, Chris, you sent out a number of, Krebs's, sheets with, blue, commentary. Are those back and forth between the engineer and, the applicant? So they're not really your comments, they're just,
That's right, yeah.
yeah. And so does your staff report kind of summarize anything that's remaining that wasn't addressed?
Yes.
All right, so, the first item I had was actually on page 3, under the design review standards, D2, and it has a reference to core principles of a designated village center district, but we're not really in the village center district, so I think that's a LDC kind of language transfer.
That is likely correct, although I think the design review overlay district was intended to extend the principles of a village center district outwards along the corridors.
Yeah, so I just want to be careful with my interpretation of that as extending the principles, but because the architecture changes along that street significantly, we're not probably trying to say that the architecture of the village center itself is necessarily applicable to that area. And I would submit that the proposal is substantially more modern than things that might have been along that corridor in the past, but it's certainly in character with other similar recent construction of that in that area and that type. So I found that was fine. I thought that similar with the rest of the architectural elements. I thought that the applicant actually did a great job listening to our comments about the overly flat architecture treatment and has maintained a relatively planar approach, but certainly it's not flat anymore. Actually fairly interesting architectural facade. The only comment I had was, there are actually 2 comments on the front. One was, I thought I read in the note somewhere that there was not a sign or a plaque,
So,
and it's showing on the drawing, so are we here to accept it with the sign, or are we?
yeah, so we didn't know if we could turn the architectural renderings around with the sign in time, and so we were gonna come back, but Chris did allow us to
Yeah.
to resend in the updated architecture with the, it's more of a plaque.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. The one related comment is I actually find that the elevator shaft, which is expressed as the brown column, tower, what have you, is now the plainest thing up there. So it's doing a job, but it's also just, to me, it stood out as a ongoing opportunity. Maybe the plaque should be on the elevator tower. I just, think about that. I would not object to either one, and I think the tower is shown as board and batten, where the rest of the siding materials are more horizontal, and so you're going to get some interest there. But I think you're headed in the right direction. I really appreciate the work that was done to the facades, and especially down I think it's the west side. Really, sure, it's up against the other building, but it looks a lot better. I just still felt like that long, tall thing right in the middle of the front of the building just a little something. And it doesn't have to be much. It could be the way the shiplap seams are done. I mean, or the board and batten. So you've got flat with every joint has a batten applied to it. So you're going to have these long slivers of, and just maybe there's a treatment of a board and batten that got a little bit more flavor to it. So you can.
You don't
think
like
of.
harvest honey?
Well, I don't mind the harvest honey. I'm just saying it's a big piece of real estate. Anyway, if nobody else has anything to say about it, I'll just be quiet. I'm always looking for something to, counterpoint there. So I might move the sign if that's all that happens. Maybe that's enough.
Is that,
So am I understanding that we're waiving the permit for a sign? Is that correct?
It's not really a sign, really. It's a building feature. It's
30-inch by 30-inch.
Yeah.
Gabe Handy 2025.
yeah. It's like the name of the building. It's like the Brownell block has a thing on top that says
That's
Brownell block
Yes.
and the date. It's very traditional. It's common. But if it's there, we're supposed to approve it.
So, right, with these plaques, if it shows up on the architectural drawings, staff we've been considering that a part of the architectural design. If it doesn't show up on the architectural drawings, it's still possible to put on afterwards, but then as a sign.
Yeah.
I mean, hasn't it been put up before without being on the architectural drawings on other buildings?
Yes, they got a sign permit in those cases,
Okay.
but yes,
I would just agree with John that I think it would look better on the tall column.
Yeah.
It looks a little funny where it is.
On the top column instead of on the. That's fine.
Mm.
That's
Oh.
fine.
So I'm going forward to page 6. There's a bold note up about a third of the page down. Staff recommends that DRB approve the requested waiver for 22-foot parking travel aisle. I recall that in our conceptual review, we had no problem with that. I just want to formalize our waiver or acceptance of that 22-foot parking travel aisle. So we'll add that to the conditions, or is it ahead of the conditions in a waiver somewhere? You do have it bulleted under recommendations.
Yeah, it should be, well, it should be added, it should actually be added to the conditions. If it's not there, it was
Okay. Right. I needed just a little bit of input from staff on page 8, the item related to the light fixture mounting height of 16 feet. I think all other districts, but maybe not. We're being asked to approve a waiver to go to 16 feet, and are we supposedly 15 feet, but we're
yes.
asking for 16?
Yes. This is a multi-family district, and the maximum mounting height is 15, unless otherwise approved.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and imagine that the poles usually come in 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 kind of thing.
so the poles come in 12 feet and 15 feet. And so
Or
if you
50?
if you mount them on
On a
a
base.
concrete base that you need so the cars don't run
Yeah.
into it, you get to 16 feet.
Typically, we're thinking those bases have been 2 feet high. Are you 1 or 2?
So maybe it's 14 feet. Whatever it was, I didn't do the landscape architect told me basically that you can only, it's either got to be 16 feet or I think would have to drop to 14 feet or 13 feet.
Yeah,
And then he doesn't get the lumens that he needed.
The lighting plan specifies that the total height would be 16 feet, and that the poles will be cut accordingly to make sure it does not exceed 16 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty standard that the concrete bases are kicked up from the grade about 2 feet because, you know, you got trucks and cars and everything else, and it's a lot better for the light pole if those bumpers hit the concrete and not the pole, because the pole just, right, so, especially the snow plows and stuff. So I'm fine with that. I think it's appropriate and common.
Can we make a note to maybe flag this for the planning commission? Just I'm thinking as they think about future iterations of the
I think Michael's on that, right?
LDC,
Yeah, I can make a note of that.
Yeah.
may save us the need to provide waivers in the future if that's a standard.
Screening and buffering, I think the whole 15-foot buffer from the single-family home, and that really has gotten, again, much better with the building flopping to the other side of the site. So I was very pleased to see the landscaping plan after that also flopped over. So I have no additional comments there. I thought it was fairly robust and it should work out really well.
Yep.
The rest of them are all kind of engineer-based, comply with this. Landscape and tree planting requirements, I think we talked about that already. I've just made a note in my own notes to add that to the proposed conditions. So that takes care of my comments on the staff report. Anybody else? Kristen, all right?
Yeah, everything looks good. I agree. I think the moving the building to the other side works out.
All right. Staff, any thoughts?
I will note that one interesting thing we've noticed is that the long-term bike parking is located in the basement, so you would need to take an elevator to get there. It's not against the LDC requirements. It's just not best practice in terms of a bike parking siting, but it's a whole lot better than not having it as a code used to not require.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the things I had asked the applicants to demonstrate is that the elevator was of sufficient size to accommodate a bicycle, because you would need to take it to go down and back up, and probably you might want to be able to fit two of them at a time if a couple is leaving at once. And I would say probably taking it through multiple doors and up the stairs would be quite difficult. I think people will be relying on the elevator. But I think it functionally works enough to meet the requirements of the LDC.
It looks like a pretty decent elevator. I will say that the life safety code requires basically stretcher capable elevators for these applications, so you're almost by definition going to get plenty of room for bicycles. I will note that we also have another project which just recently came up on bicycle storage, is that e-bikes, right? Bicycles with batteries. The batteries are considered a fire hazard by the fire marshals, and so they're getting tougher on the requirements for those rooms. So the rooms inside the building that have e-bicycle storage and charging have a whole list of design criteria that affects the sprinkler system, the wall ratings, the type of door, that kind of thing. So just have your architects make sure they check that with the local jurisdiction because it's kind of a new topic. You know, the e-bikes have been around just long enough now that the fire marshals are seeing some issues and they're addressing those, you know, kind of head on. So it may not be something that we've really seen before, but it's pretty interesting. It's, you know, in the long-term interest of your building and the fire safety, you just want to jump on that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you telling me that, because I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing. Nobody, you know, it's like, wow, we got bike storage, you know, and then the fire marshal says, wait a minute, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
If
so
they've got power down there anyway, they're gonna bring it up to their unit.
yeah, so it's probably a good thing that that's generally encouraged in a rated room. I think it's only 1 hour, but you know, which is fine. It's easy, but it's just something to keep track of because it's harder to do after the fact.
Is that only if charging is available if there's power, or is
I'm
that?
not
if
sure. I
there's-
think powering, it's worse when you're powering, you know, the options, the opportunity for something to go wrong is
Yeah.
higher, but, I don't know, we just started seeing it recently, so trying to pass that along. But I love having the bike storage. I know it traditionally has been kind of, you know, your unit storage or your bike storage is often in the basement, so I'm not that, concerned about the location. Real estate wise, it's a good place for it. You know, first floor is a lot higher demand space, so, you know, it's okay.
That's
Yes,
what we.
And just in case becomes an issue, is it possible that I could, or my architect would, with Chris, maybe move the bike rack up instead of putting it in the basement? Is that something?
You can always do that, or I think I saw an option for putting it remote from the building, you know, which the fire marshal's favorite idea is it's not in the building. But there are multiple ways to do protected enclosed bike storage.
Yeah, and you can do minor site plan amendment if the change is under a certain size. It sounds like that sounds like something that would qualify if you need to make a change to be a minor site plan amendment.
But that doesn't mean I have to rewarn it and wait and all of that. I'm just asking if Chris could handle the switch over from the basement to an upper, the parking level.
If you keep it within the approved site plan footprint, whether it's inside the building or under I don't think we need to see it again. I think
Okay,
that's
what I'm asking.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's already approved, but
Okay.
I would imagine that's because you're not changing any of the things that really showed up on paper except that location. Like maybe you give up a parking spot and you put the bike storage out there.
Yes.
Would that change if it took any of the units out, or was that?
I think he's talking about under the, you know,
Oh,
there's
in
some
the
parking
park.
under the,
Under the parking,
Yeah.
in the parking area, under the columns.
As a general rule, I mean, LDC aside, I would always be supportive of if you wanted to put something and lose a parking space or two in exchange for bike storage.
Or maybe just the e-batteries, move them up there.
Sure.
This is,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to think now.
Yeah.
yeah, I know the whole you know, whether it's a vehicle or a bicycle or what have you, it's like people we know have electric motorcycles, so their batteries are even bigger, right? So yeah, it's an ongoing issue. We're seeing just more reaction from the fire side, you know, to try and address it as you know, that there are more of them and so on. So great. Do we want to close the public hearing now? I'm not sure we need to keep going.
There's no public here.
No public here. Right, there's no public here. All right, well, we still formally have to close the public hearing. So I'm over.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Motion carries. So we're here to deliberate now. I see that Chris had the recommendations. We talked about the design review standards of the section. We all agreed they were met. The the second bullet on the building's relationship to the site and adjoining areas, et cetera, we agreed they were met. The waiver for the 22-foot parking access aisle requested by the applicant, we agreed to waive,
Yes.
and we'll make that a condition of the approval. The waiver for the parking lot light fixtures at a height of 16 feet, we also agree to. And we agree that the proposed bike parking and storage is acceptable as shown, or in lieu of that, under the building in the currently designated parking area. And I'll say that it's okay with us if staff has to approve that administratively. If the building architecture changes somehow, which I can't imagine looks any more like a one bay has got a wall in it, that's all you're gonna see from the outside, that compatible architecture be used in the infill of that bay. So, right, because it's got to be weather resistant, right? Can't be a chain link fence, it has to be, yeah. Okay, and then all proposed conditions from staff are met. Chris, we haven't been doing this, but I've started thinking maybe we should, and that is making some kind of notation about the energy code and CBs applying, and the certificate of design and construction compliance is provided to the city.
Yes, that is a requirement of statute anyway. We can
Yeah.
make that explicit in the proposed conditions.
I think it is. I'll just say that from the design community, there's some back and forth about who's filing it, where does it go, how does it get to the state, and I know what it says in the CB's code itself, but it doesn't happen the right way as often as it should. So it's not a bad reminder. And then on my final proposed condition was that the LDC tree protection requirements should be followed, and the input from an arborist be used for significant existing trees. And I think that term has a meaning, like it's got to be over a certain caliper, or isn't there a definition of special trees? Like over a certain size, they get a, yeah, so, but 60 inches is significant.
Some larger ones in the
Yeah.
back too. Try to keep.
Yeah, all right. And just specifically the one on the property line, which has already received attention from neighbors, and, yeah. All right.
I would just clarify that the LDC requires that the plan to save the tree be developed by a consulting arborist or landscape architect, and in this case, the landscape architect has already worked on the plan and developed the landscaping plan. So I think by the letter of the law, they have met the requirements, but it certainly, when it comes to specifics for how to protect the tree, it does not hurt to have all the professional inputs that would help.
What that would suggest to me is that the detail sheet, which shows you how to plant a new tree, will also include a detail from that landscape architect or an arborist showing how to protect the existing tree. So it's complete with what has to happen, how does it get staked out, how does it get protected, what's happening to it, how do you help the roots instead of crushing them with all your new top fill and so forth. And so that it will need that level of detail if somebody out in the field is going to do something. Otherwise, just having the landscape architect say existing 60-inch tree doesn't get you anything. So that's been our experience. You just put it right in the documents like anything else. Anyone else with a amendment or additional criteria, condition? Kristen, no? Anyone want to make a motion to approve? I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the project with the proposed conditions and the additional conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Nicely done on the final version.
Happy?
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Good night.
All right, so that's that one. And Chris, I also think that your back and forth on that was really helpful because there was a lot of back and forth. And it felt like they were trying to have a plan that came in that said, we're just gonna flip everything, but you know, you don't really see what that means until somebody does it. So I'm glad they were able to turn those documents around. I need my, do we have any other business? We have anything else? We're gonna welcome our newest staff member, city planner, is that the title? Yeah, fabulous. But you don't have big shoes to fill really, because I'm not sure we've had one before. But you have endless opportunity ahead of you to do some amazing things.
I appreciate
So,
it.
yeah.
Just today's meeting has been insightful.
Good. Let's see, anything else from the committee or the DRB? The board members? No?
So-
Any updates on past projects or anything?
No, actually, they have recent, so 8 Railroad and 17 Park were approved in April, but we have not received a request for a zoning permit for those two projects yet. The architect for 8 Railroad was in touch about the gambrel roof and thinks that there's a way to satisfy the desire to extend the front portion of the building as requested. That's as far as it's gone so far, but I do expect that we'll hear back pretty soon.
Okay, great.
We'll also note that there are 2 members of the DRB whose term is up, and we will. The city council will proceed with reappointments or new appointments next week, next Wednesday.
Oh, so if those members have been asked to submit a letter saying we're fine to continue, that's happened already, because now we're, all right. You guys, we'll be looking forward to see who shows up at our next meeting.
I will not be here at the next.
You will not be here, okay. Well, thank you for
Stepping back.
everything.
Yeah,
Good.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
It was nice, you did a nice job transitioning from the other
Zoning board,
board
yeah.
to this, so that's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. How about the so-called Crescent Connector? Is that, I know it's almost finished, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that looks like one end of it is usable and just, they don't let you out the other end yet because they're still working on the road there. Is there an update on the progress of that?
I believe the curbs along the entire corridor have been completed. Paving is ongoing. You can sign up for construction updates from Hamlin Engineering, and they do a great job of advising the public on when to avoid the area. But it's looking good, and it does look like it's going to really transform the looks and functionality of the city center, and really align well with the potential future developments.
Are we thinking that, like, by July 4th, we're driving on it, or is that?
That was my question.
Well,
I thought I read that it was supposed to be done by November or something like that this year, but wondering if there might be any possibility of earlier completion date?
My understanding is that it's generally still on schedule, and it is gonna be finished at the end of this construction season, which tends to go till November. But whether or not it will open for traffic a little bit earlier, I'm not sure. I think a lot hangs. It doesn't really work until the signals
Yeah.
are turned on. So until that is done, I wouldn't expect any significant driving on it.
I'll just say that for decades, the parking lot that went on the other side of the railroad tracks, behind the Lincoln Inn and so forth, worked out really well with anything. So anyway, we'll be patient. Anything
Chris,
else?
can
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Chris, I just had a question on the property that's next to Kentucky Fried Chicken. I think that's what it, yeah. Didn't we see a proposal from them, and then it looks like there's like a for sale
now.
sign for that property? Is there an update on that?
Yes, it seems that the owner, Bob Paroline, has done some more. I think since since he came in for the conceptual site plan, some of the economics of construction has changed, and the cost of construction, he thinks, will make it prohibitive, at least the way he's designed it. So yeah, he's exploring other options, including selling it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what anybody else will be able to do with it. It is, I think, a kind of challenging parcel because it's so small, and with the Vermont Building Code and I mean really throughout North America requiring two staircases, a lot of buildings under a certain size, especially when you need an elevator, it just doesn't pencil out, especially with the current construction costs.
Yeah.
And then what about the one across the way in the is it like a subway?
Next
The
to
one that's
Subway,
next
yeah.
to-
Yeah, that's. I think that's 139 Pearl. I think.
Yeah.
That one was to have shared parking with the mall over there.
Yep.
It is. I mean, they have not come in for a zoning permit. We heard a little bit from the state about Act 250, and they got a jurisdictional opinion to confirm that they do not have to go through Act 250 for that. But my understanding is that they're also kind of slowing down given the construction cost and interest rates, but they have not stopped. I mean, they're still pursuing. They were still in communication with the state, so I mean, we could hear any moment.
Good to know. Thanks. Thank you.
All right. I think I'm all set. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Oh, actually, I had one more question.
Oh.
This may not be for you, Chris, but the pocket park in front of Firebird, is that still, are there still plans to revamp that?
Yes, that actually is under the community development department's work. We were working with the city council during the last budget cycle to figure out if it could still fit in. And at that point, they weren't sure. It wasn't a high priority, and they weren't sure that the Economic Development Fund was going to pass with voters. But it did. We received direction just a couple of weeks ago that the city council wants us to move forward with that, but at a kind of reduced scope. So not so much of a, so we'll try to avoid ground disturbance and the major physical permanent changes there. They want a solution that provides shade, but and looks nice, but is flexible in case Main Street gets pedestrianized in the future. I think there are a lot of moving parts there, and putting in permanent changes at this moment is probably not necessary.
Thanks.
A lot to catch up on. Anything else? All right, motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion? No, motion carries. Thank you very much. We're done. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Kristen.